Jonathan Majors is back in theaters for a second week in a row, and I've got to admit, I think I might like Dame more than Kang. Creed 3 is the third installment in the Creed franchise and is the directorial debut of Michael B. Jordan. And it tells the story of Adonis, who is in a very different phase in his life, who is retired from boxing until a character from his past shows back up and drives Creed back into the ring. I have really enjoyed the entire series of Creed and even going before Creed, Rocky. I grew up watching the Rocky movies and oftentimes like on repeat to where I've lost count of how many times I've seen Rocky. And I remember when I watched that first Creed movie being so impressed that I was able to care about this character who was just a son of a side character in the Rocky series. But I've really grown to love the Creed franchise and especially Michael B. Jordan's portrayal of Adonis Creed. So I was really looking forward not just to seeing this movie and the continuation of Adonis' story, but more of what Michael B. Jordan would be able to do behind the camera. And I have to say, this is a great introduction to Michael B. Jordan, the director. I thought he did a great job getting fantastic performances out of the cast, of just certain ways that he directed, especially the fight scenes. I mean, we know what these boxing movies entail. We know that it's going to come down to a big fight. We've seen so many different ones that it kind of can feel repetitive. It can kind of start to feel like we know what to expect. But Michael B. Jordan brings so many fresh takes to the way the fights especially are filmed. And he's revealed in interviews that he took a lot of inspiration from anime. And as someone who doesn't watch a whole lot of anime, I think my anime is very limited to Dragon Ball Z. Even then, I was still able to see where he was able to bring in some of those anime influences into the fights, and it really worked for me. I'm sure if I'd watched more anime, there's probably stuff that I missed, but the things that I was able to pick up on, I was very impressed with. I really hope Michael B. Jordan continues directing, whether it's if there are future Creed movies or something else. I will definitely be there and I'm looking forward to seeing what he has to do next. But not just behind the camera, Michael B. Jordan just has such a command and control of who this character is. It's been so cool to kind of see where he started in the first movie. There are a couple of quick cutaways and flashbacks to it, and I was kind of thinking about the first movie and to see like there really has been a progression in the character of Adonis from where he started to a character who wanted to not be in his father's shadow to who he is, because in this movie he is retired, he has a daughter, he has kind of moved on from that phase, and it was just so cool to see Adonis in this new stage in life when he does step back into the ring eventually. It was really great to see him in there. Well, I think all of the cast does a great job. I think the real story here is Jonathan Majors. Jonathan Majors is a absolute just kind of menace in this movie. I mentioned earlier, I thought he did a really great job in Quantumania as Kang. Didn't love the movie, but I thought he did a great job bringing just this kind of quiet presence. In this movie, it's amazing that you know from the very beginning that he's going to be the antagonist, but you kind of go on this roller coaster of emotions of like empathizing with him and then starting to say like, ooh, I don't know if I like that. I don't know if I like what you're doing there. And then going back to like, oh, I really do feel for him again. And then by the end, really just wanting to see him get knocked out. I thought he was just fantastic. He's one of those actors that he's able to convey so much with very little dialogue. He emotes in a particular way to where there were times where he was looking at another character, looking at the camera, and I thought he was just telling a story and that he was telling us his emotions and his feelings and that. I am just so impressed with Jonathan Majors. I think he's an absolute revelation. I know this is kind of the year of Jonathan Majors with this and Quantumania and with Devotion, and I'm just looking forward to seeing him in so much more. He has by far been the best antagonist in the Creed series and maybe even in the entire Rocky Creed franchise. And I think a lot of that is tied to, I think they did a great job with the story of tying Dame into Adonis's backstory of them being friends, to not spoil anything. The experience that they go through really, like, you really feel it, and it makes sense as to why the emotions that are displayed in the final fight, like, you really feel it, like it's earned. It's not just out of nowhere. They really built that up to where at the end you're really rooting to see a great fight. If you want to call it the elephant in the room, I guess I'll go ahead and address it. Sylvester Stallone is not in this movie. While I think that there were probably, if you look at the story, there were probably moments where it felt like, hey, this would have been a good moment for Rocky to kind of come in, or for Adonis to go and talk to Rocky. With all of that said, I think it was the right move to not have Rocky in this movie. I think this is the first movie that I really felt this is Adonis's story. He is no longer in his dad's shadow. He's no longer in Rocky's shadow. Because in the first two Creed movies, they were very directly linked to Rocky's past and things that happened in the Rocky franchise. This is the first movie where this is 100% Adonis's story based on just what's happened in his life. And I think that was needed to really help us know and feel like man, this Creed series can stand on its own as Adonis' story, and it does not need all of the other baggage that it comes with from Rocky. Don't get me wrong, if they do future movies and Rocky is somehow involved, I'm all for it, but I do think that it was the right move to kind of let Adonis have his own story, to deal with his emotions the way he wanted to. I think the series is better for it. I don't think this is a perfect movie. There are some gripes I had with it. Number one, I think this movie could have actually stood to be maybe about 15 minutes longer. I would have loved for certain story points and certain things, especially kind of in Act 2 going into Act 3, there were things that I just wanted really fleshed out. I really loved the first kind of act and beginning of the second act. I was really engrossed in the storytelling, what they were doing. But I felt like the events that led up to the final fight seemed very rushed. It seemed like this is going to happen, and then boom, it was the fight. And there was certain things that I wish that they had just kind of taken their time with, some extra conversations had, just for us to kind of feel a little bit more. And maybe I'm just being picky because I already told you I felt all of the emotion in the final fight. I think I just wanted to spend more time with these characters, and I would have loved to see it just maybe a little bit longer to kind of flesh out the characters just a little bit more and kind of really build up a little bit more to the final fight. Another kind of minor qualm I had is this movie is very stylized. Certain ways that they were shooting it, handling the camera, there was a lot of movement happening, and I know that's a style that's used to kind of make you feel like you're more there. And you've seen the evolution of the way the camera has kind of gone throughout the series, from just a traditional, like almost like you're watching it on TV, to where in Creed they've really taken it up a step where it's almost like you're in the ring. There's times where Michael B. Jordan would get punched, and when he's falling, the camera's kind of moving with him. And those are really great techniques. For some reason, it just felt really hyper visualized. I don't even know if that's the right word, but in this movie, to where at times it felt a little distracting for me. I went and watched it with my wife. She didn't have the same things that I did. So maybe it's just me. At first I was like, I don't know if it's the way they're shooting it, or I don't know if like they're shooting this on a green screen to where like the people, like the audience in the arena, if that's just CGI or whatever it is. But there were moments where it kind of took me out of it while I was in the theater. But there was a moment where I had to tell myself, okay, like this is visual storytelling. Like Michael B. Jordan is taking this and doing something really cool with it. He's not just telling us a story based on dialogue and stuff, but just in the visuals that we're seeing, there's a lot going on. But once I was able to be like, okay, I just need to trust this is intentional and he's doing this for a reason, and I need to try to like help the visuals further my understanding of the story, I was right back in it, and I loved what I was seeing. And Michael B. Jordan, again, like going back to him, does a great job. There's certain things that he does during the fight where things will slow down and you kind of see like he's studying certain things, or the arena kind of goes black and it's just the two people that are in the ring. I just thought it was so amazing to kind of see it, and it really made the boxing scenes really fresh. And it's like, man, this is a new style of fighting that we're seeing, that I think it just brought what could have been dry and old and done before. It really made it fresh and all the more enjoyable. Creed 3 is a movie I highly recommend. I don't know where it ranks in the series. I think if I had to, I'd probably put Creed 1 still number one, just because of a lot of the story that it had to tell and the way it did it. But I think I can go ahead and firmly say now, I think this is superior to Creed 2. And I'm someone who I like Creed 2, but I do think this is the better movie. It's better told, it's better directed. I highly recommend it. I recommend watching it on whatever big screen that you can. I recommend you going to the theaters. It is worth the money. Watch it on the biggest screen you can. Don't wait for it to come out on streaming or whatever. Just watching it at home, I don't think is going to have the same impact as it would going to theaters. Thank you guys so much for the support. I know it's been a while. I'm hoping that I can kind of jump back into this. Thank you guys so much for the support, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.